Hi, everybody, and welcome to our information session with the Peace and Environment Resource Center and Sustainable Capacity Solutions. I do want to start things off just by acknowledging that this virtual event is being hosted by the Nova Scotia Environmental Network, which is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. So this territory is covered by the Peace and Friendship Treaties of 1725, and these treaties did not deal with the surrender of land, but they did set out the rights and responsibilities that settlers and Mi'kmaq people owe to one another. So as such, we are all treaty people. My name is Cass, and I am currently the network coordinator for the Nova Scotia Environmental Network. So if you're unfamiliar with NSEN, we are a network of about 50 environmental organizations across the province whose common purpose is to conserve and enhance the natural environment and build a sustainable future for Nova Scotia. So we strive to support, strengthen, and promote the environmental work of our members by connecting them to each other, to governments, and to the public. So I am very happy to welcome four guest speakers tonight. First off, we're going to have Kaela Neil from Nature Trust New Brunswick. Then we'll hear a little bit from Jordan Kilgour from the New Brunswick Environmental Network. Then we have Nasha Choudhury and Hannah Rockburn from the Peace and Environment Resource Center and Sustainable Capacity Solutions to speak a little bit about the youth programs that these organizations are offering this spring. So with that, I will hand it over to our first guest speaker, Kaela.
Yeah, so I'm Kaela Neil. I'm the Strategic Policy and HR Manager at the Nature Trust of New Brunswick. So a little bit about us. We are a charitable land conservation organization that focuses on conserving and stewarding private land and engaging New Brunswickers. So we protect, private land. We acquire it through various means, and then we steward it. They're called nature preserves. So we've been going since 1987, and we have 13,600 acres and more than 90 nature preserves. Our vision is to envision a New Brunswick where our natural heritage of unique biological and geological diversity is valued and protected for the health and sustainability of future generations. And our mission is to engage and involve New Brunswickers in conserving and stewarding the province's natural heritage. We have a promise to conserve, steward, and engage, and that actually kind of filters into how our departments are broken down. So I'll kind of explain that, and then also then how kind of we use the youth supports and opportunities that are out there. So our team, we have our operational department, which is strategic policy and corporate and finance. That's I kind of fall under that. That's the administration and the general oversight and management. Then we have conservation department, stewardship, and then communications and engagement. So the conservation department, they're the ones that identifies private land to protect through various programs. We have the Conservation Partner Program. So that's where landholders can participate, and we help them kind of with sustainable land management suggestions and stewardship on their private land. They'll go out and do field visits. They're also the conservation department's involved in the property acquisitions. We have species or habitat focused projects, and usually around like species at risk and sensitive habitat. Then we have a stewardship department. So they're the ones that manage and maintain our 90 nature preserves across the province. That's various tasks, including monitoring, boundary maintenance, species and habitat health surveys, different restoration, and relationship building with partners and communities. And we use the landscape conservation software management tool to do that. And then we have our engagement department, which focuses on fostering a connection or nurturing a relationship with New Brunswickers to forge connections with nature. So we have a Passport to Nature program that includes all of our events. Our big one is the Great Fundy Coastal Cleanup that we do yearly. This year, it'll be our 10th anniversary for that event, which is great. We have over 10 to 20 sites that we go visit and clean up. A lot of them are islands. We have booths and partner events. The engagement department also handles our volunteer management. So we have over 300 volunteers and stewards to help kind of monitor and do trail maintenance on all of those nature preserves. And just helps with general kind of member outreach. And then the communication department are the storytellers of our organization. We have the gratitude report. They help create different brochures and guides, whether they be, landowner stewardship or wetland guides or different variety of things like that. The nature e-news, fundraising, advocacy, etc. So yeah, youth engagement, how we kind of connect with youth. We benefit greatly from different partnerships and opportunities, and also just benefit from the passion and enthusiasm of the youth staff and volunteers. We have different partnerships with university and colleges, youth employment funding and training opportunities. And I figured I would just touch on, we just recently kind of got involved in the eco internships and the BIPOC Fellowship. So currently we have two staff that are doing a community climate project proposal, which focuses on removing invasive species. Specifically on one nature preserve, Kaela Park. So they're looking at ways to remove Japanese knotweed and woodland angelica. And including in this would be like leading a volunteer restoration event. And the training so far that they've received, the feedback I've gotten has been really beneficial, especially the burnout and mental health webinar. And I found so far that, giving them some experience with writing proposals and reporting is really beneficial before going on to potentially like the bigger grant applications. And then the BIPOC Fellowship, we have our volunteer Bimpe Timpson, who is going to be leading a self-directed cleanup. Again, like I said, I talked about the 10th anniversary of the Great Fundy Coastal Cleanup. And so she has applied for some project funding to get that going and to have some individuals in her community from the university and from the Multicultural Association to go out and find ways to like help with transportation and different things like that. Yeah, that's it. Don't know if there's questions now or later.
Yeah, if anybody has any burning questions now, feel free to ask them. If not, I will pass it on to Jordan and you can save it for the Q&A period at the end. Okay, Jordan, I think you're safe.
Okay. Yeah, hi everybody. I am just gonna share my screen really quickly with you all. If it'll work. Yes. Okay. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you see it? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, so hi everybody. My name is Jordan. I'm the youth programs coordinator at the New Brunswick Environmental Network. And I'm just going to chat a little bit about, our youth program that we run, which is called the Youth Environmental Action Network. So just a little bit of background on the New Brunswick Environmental Network. We're a communications network that links together over 100 nonprofit environmental organizations all across the province of New Brunswick. We do work through a variety of different programs, including biodiversity-focused collaborative, watershed caucus, environmental health caucus, a climate change adaptation collaborative, and a few others that I won't get into, but we also have our Youth Environmental Action Network, which is our youth program collaborative. And what YEEN does is support the involvement of New Brunswick youth in the province's environmental movement. And we generally define youth as 16 to 25, although we do have a little bit of flexibility sometimes with that. That's generally kind of the age range that we focus on. And we support and help youth to get involved in the environmental movement in a few different ways. So we do that through our steering committee, local events, workshops, and conferences, our social media pages, and through connecting youth with local nonprofits. So I'm just going to go through these really quickly for you all just to kind of explain them. So our steering committee meets once a month over Zoom for about an hour. And this is a space that youth have kind of committed to coming to for that once a month. And they use that space to connect, to network, to collaborate on different issues, different projects that are of interest to them, to discuss kind of relevant issues that are happening, in Canada or in New Brunswick. And they also provide us with some feedback and ideas for any workshops, events, or conferences that we have too. It's a really great supportive space to be in if you're looking to connect with other youth in the province who are also, interested in environmental work or are part of a club or a group in New Brunswick. And this opportunity is open to anybody. So if this is something that you're interested in, you can email this email down here, nben@nbn.ca, and we can get you plugged into the steering committee. And then we do local events, workshops, and conferences. So last year we had a big youth conference in Fredericton, and we did, several different hands-on workshops in different communities across New Brunswick, which were really fun. Just to give folks the opportunity to kind of meet up in person, learn, and collaborate on different projects and things that are happening in their community and get connected to local groups. We currently don't have any events or workshops coming up soon, but you can be notified about any events or workshops we have coming up by checking out our social media pages. So we have a Instagram page, which I'll just show you really quickly. It's at yin_Raj. And yeah, on here you can find posts about any events that we're going to be participating in or that we're hosting. And you can also find these cool roundups of different opportunities, specifically for youth in New Brunswick. And this could be jobs, volunteer opportunities, funding opportunities, calls to action, all kinds of things. And I know folks find this helpful because different opportunities might often be spread across a lot of different places, and this just kind of like brings it together. This is just a small selection of opportunities that we post, I think once a week. But we also have this Padlet board, which I'll show you quickly here, that has a whole bunch of other opportunities that we can't put on Instagram every single week. So right now there's a ton of summer jobs on here. So if you're like a young person looking for a summer job still for this year, there's some stuff on here still. There's also more permanent jobs, volunteer and service programs, events, funding, calls to action, and some resources at the end that folks might find helpful. So this is updated regularly. It's always here, and it's a handy thing to kind of check back in on if you're looking to get more involved in environmental work or climate action at all in the province. And finally, I'll just take you to the website. So this is the NBN website, and I'm on the Youth Environmental Action Network page. You can find the links to the Instagram here and the Padlet board. But also on the right, under the Yin quick links, there's a sign up for our Yin newsletter. And so if you aren't a fan of Instagram, or you're not on Instagram, or you just prefer to get things directly to your inbox, I send out a newsletter once a month that has some updates on the steering committee and the work that the steering committee is doing, and also some opportunities and things like that that are going on. So if you come onto this site and just fill in your information, you can click Youth Environmental Action Network here at the bottom and then select what language you would like to get the newsletter in. It's done in English and French. And then you'll get that to your inbox, which is another way you can get notified about some things that are going on. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, the NBN has a really big network of nonprofits and other organizations in New Brunswick and across Canada that are doing really cool environmental work. And our network is your network. So if there is any organizations that you ever want to get connected to or you want to learn more about, that you want, you're looking for a mentor or you have a project or something that you need support on or that you want help promoting. I'm so happy to provide those connections to you, to introduce you to any of the groups in our network. And if you are, wanting to take advantage of that, you can email me or send an email to the nben@nben.ca email address. And I'm happy to get you connected to any local groups that are near you. And that's all I had to say. I'll send some of the links that I mentioned in the chat in case that's helpful for folks to get that directly to them. Yeah, and I hope you get involved in the network. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much, Jordan. I think we'll pass it over right to Nasha. So if you have any questions, just hold your thought, and we'll make some time at the end to answer anything for Kaela, Jordan, Nasha, or Hannah.
Perfect. Thank you, Cass, and thank you both, Kaela and Jordan, for speaking about your organizations and your work. I think there's probably a good segue there to talk about how we at PERC engage youth, but specifically for myself, how we engage BIPOC youth and generally BIPOC into the environmental sector. So I've got a quick presentation, and I'm just going to pull that up. Give me one quick second. Right, and then I go into present mode. All right, can everyone see that okay? Okay, great. So the BIPOC Fellowship is all about diversity as well as equity and inclusion in the environmental nonprofit space. We operate across Canada, and yeah, and we're really keen on just bringing more diversity to the table, especially in leadership and high-level positions. But beyond that, also just supporting BIPOC and newly through our microgrants program, BIPOC youth that are looking for a way to contribute, whether it's through their participation at a nonprofit or a project or initiative of their own. So we'll get into that, but this is a land acknowledgement. I probably won't read the whole thing. I know we've done a land acknowledgement for the work that we're doing in the East Atlantic coast, but here in Ottawa, we're on the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people's territory, and we acknowledge this land that we have started and continue to do this work on. So what is the BIPOC Fellowship? A BIPOC Fellowship, as I said, is this opportunity for us to recognize, support, and celebrate all the wonderful BIPOC leaders that already exist in the sector, but are also, that exist out there and are potential leaders in this sector, but might have certain barriers to access or inopportunities or challenges in general to enter the sector, to be able to navigate it, and to be able to get to a leadership position. Myself, Nasha, I co-chair the BIPOC Fellowship, and then I have a colleague whose name is Ken Neptune, who co-chairs it with me. We have a very our hierarchy is very horizontal versus vertical, so we propose to work together and make decisions together as a collective rather than for myself or KED to make those decisions uniquely by ourselves. So whenever we are looking at the structure of the fellowship, the programs of the fellowship, or the fellows that we want to bring on board, we want to bring those decisions to the collective fellowship and choose a direction forward together. Wrong way. Okay, so here's a little brief history. So we're still fairly new. We launched in 2021. Our official launch at that time was through the Sustainable Capacity Foundation and the capacity. We started off with a few fellows. Head was another fellow in Ontario. Her name was Julie, and the three of us worked together to kind of launch the fellowship. And then in 2022, we were able to award another fellowship to a woman named Jacqueline who works in Montreal. So that way we expanded into Quebec. And then we continued to fundraise throughout that year. And in 2023, we were able to extend it beyond just Ontario and Quebec and have fellows join us from Calgary, from Vancouver. And then in 2024, we launched our microgrants program, which I will talk about. All this time, we have been running workshops such as roundtables for our fellows to come together to meet and to have a safe space to be able to talk about their experiences in the sector, as well as to share successes and share challenges. We also provide mentorship, resources, tools. And I'll just make a note that the first 2-3 years, these fellowships were targeted towards leaders in the environmental sector. So people who were BIPOC and held positions already in senior management or leadership roles at environmental nonprofit organizations. And the money was given, the funds were given to support them in their roles. So they could use those funds at their discretion. They could use them to support their salary. They could use them to support professional development opportunities for themselves. And they could also use them towards a project or initiative of their own at their organization. And that was really important to us to give these funds and give them at their own discretion and at their own agency to use them the way that was most important for them. Keep clicking in and goes back to click the arrow. So we have 3 main goals. The first is to engage, second is to connect, and the third is to share resources and information. So the first one, engaging leaders, is really about doing that outreach piece, finding those leaders in the sector, and then inviting them to join us at the fellowship. So we don't have enough funding to be able to offer every single BIPOC person in the sector a fellowship, but we do want to engage them and bring them into our network and have them share the word. And then hopefully, among those people, the ones that apply for the fellowship, we can we can hopefully fund a couple of them and be able to support them in their role at their organization. The 2 is to connect them in the sector. So once we bring people together in the fellowship, we have those spaces such as a roundtable and just generally like that online communication and various other platforms for those BIPOC to come together to connect with each other, to share their experiences. And then finally, we share information and resources. So at each of our roundtables, we usually pick a subject or theme, and then we bring together resources and materials on that subject or theme, and then we'll archive those on our website as potential resources. Also, if our fellows are looking for specific resources, if they're interested in a certain subject, we'll prioritize that and try to find those resources. We'll make connections, and we'll bring on speakers or experts that might help facilitate a session during a roundtable to be able to provide that resource or information our fellows are looking for. So I talked about this at the beginning. The main values are diversity, equity, and inclusion. I feel that, those terms are used so often, sometimes we don't think about them in their exact meanings. So diversity means the varying social identities, upbringings, and ways of thinking that an individual might have. Equity is more so the allocation of resources and opportunities to align with individual circumstances and to create as close to an equal baseline of opportunity as possible. So although people might come from diverse backgrounds, they still might face different barriers and different levels of access. And so we want to level out that playing field through equitable practices. And inclusion refers to, the diverse voices at the table being equally heard. So you might have everyone there, they might have had an equal chance to arrive, but are they also getting that same opportunity to be included and to share their voices? So why is it important, especially in the sustainability sector? Just quickly, it's not just about race. Although the fellowship is focused on race, I just want to emphasize that diversity also refers to differences in gender and sex, age, class, sexual orientation, special abilities, and much more. It also refers to different viewpoints and voices. So by those differences, people have different lifestyles, life stories, life experiences, and through that, they're able to share different viewpoints and voices and perspectives on one issue. And that can help us to come to solutions that are all encompassing and not just one size fits all type solutions. And then gladness and gratitude. So, once we have a space where there is that diversity, we are able to work together on all these various perspectives and come together and build something really, truly great together. And the stats show that this is really important because we don't have the representation and we don't have the DEI that is ideal. So, jobs in this field have disproportionately been held by society's privilege, with 75% of respondents in this particular survey having a middle or higher class upbringing. 63% identify as white or Caucasian. Only 27% of people consider their leadership teams diverse. And most unfortunate of all, BIPOC on those leadership teams are often paid less than their counterparts. So, not super shocking. I think there are a number of factors. It's not always just, it's not as if people are just blocking diversity, equity, inclusion from happening. I think there are a number of factors that have resulted in this kind of disproportionate, BIPOC versus non-BIPOC in the sector. But I think what's important is that now we recognize we live in a very diverse, multicultural society, and it's really important for us to have that representation, especially because the scale of the projects and the scale of the problems, I should say, are so intense, and they need different viewpoints and perspectives to be able for us to come up with realistic solutions. So yeah, talked already about representation, especially in the sense that this earth and the planet and all the challenges we're facing, they affect everyone, and the earth belongs to everyone. And so everyone should have the right to speak their mind and speak their voice and contribute. The reality of what's coming, as I said, it's so intense and scary and big in terms of what is coming with climate change and climate consequences, that it's really important for us to have everyone at the table. And then I use this metaphor because I think it's easy to imagine when you think about the film Titanic, and I feel that it's a popular film. Most people have watched it, and you'll know that when the ship is sinking, when it's hit the iceberg and it's going down, there is a difference in who is able to access those lifeboats and who is able to save themselves first, and the people especially the people on those lower ranges of the ship, they get kind of kicked down or blocked out, or they're not given that same safe passage. And so when we think about what's happening just in terms of climate change, but any kind of world issue, there is always that difference, right? And that's brought on about by long histories of kind of systematic racism and history of colonization, but we need to recognize that. And because climate change is going to affect everyone, and especially vulnerable people and marginalized people more, we need to be really aware of that. And we also saw it with the pandemic. I'm sure some of you may have heard the term the two-world pandemic, in which, certain countries had access to the vaccines much sooner than, more third world countries and developing countries did. And finally, to celebrate, BIPOC are doing amazing things, and they also deserve recognition and, the same sort of, the same sort of recognition that other people have in this space. So I've already gone over this, but we have roundtables. We used to have a youth and diversity collective, and I'm thinking now with the microgrants program and us seeing more youth that if there's a potential for that, having a diverse youth and diversity collective would be great. So that would be still focused on DEI, but it would be for the youth. We have mentorship, we have panels. So, we're asked to speak at panels. We have panels of our own where we bring in successful BIPOC leaders to speak to our fellows. We have a microgrants project, so we launched that recently, and Kaela had mentioned that in reference to her volunteer BIMPE. But the microgrants program is to support any BIPOC that are really keen and have a project in mind or initiative in mind that's related to sustainability. And it's really a small amount, but it's seed money that can help launch a project or help support one aspect of a project. So it's really exciting. It gives us the opportunity to support a number of fellows, bring them into the fellowship, and for them to also just support each other with their project. And finally, speaking opportunities such as this. So I make myself available to speak at on different occasions at different events, just to raise awareness about the initiative, raise the awareness about the importance of diversity in this sector. And yeah, if anyone reaches out and is looking for that kind of looking for that kind of theme or topic, then I'm more than happy to speak, and I'm sure some of my colleagues and fellows would also be happy to join a speaking opportunity. Here we have a list of our funders, and we thank them for all the work they've been able to support in the last 4 years. And yeah, that's about it. So I'll end the presentation here. I know I kind of rapid fire through some of that. There was a lot of material, but yeah, I'm going to stick around for questions. And if you know BIPOC that would be excited by this, please share about our fellowship. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Nasha. And last but not least, we have Hannah talking about the Youth Support Program.
Thank you, Cass. Yeah, so tonight my name's Hannah. I'm the operations manager at Peace and Environment Resource Center. So I work alongside Nasha, and we are the charitable partner of Sustainable Capacity Solutions. So then I'm just going to quickly go over our collaborative youth support program that Kaela mentioned a little bit in her presentation, and sort of the different opportunities that we can hopefully provide for both grassroots organizations and also youth in the sector. I'll go over that. So Sustainable Capacity Solutions is a nonprofit that's dedicated to helping solve capacity challenges that are faced by a lot of environmental nonprofits by equipping them with hopefully some tools and resources that they need to engage in climate action and do the work with their own missions. And Eco Internships focuses on that sort of human resources and staffing support branch of that capacity building, bridging the gap between youth seeking meaningful careers and then the grassroots environmental nonprofits that need that capacity building support. We equip the youth with skills, training, and real world experiences that's necessary to kind of be successful in the nonprofit sector, while providing the nonprofits with the vital human resources and staffing support that they might need to help deliver on their projects. So we foster sustainable employment and impactful collaborations by connecting these organizations to wage subsidy grants. We help with some coaching with the employers on effective youth engagement and management as needed. And our program goal is really just to develop future leaders in the environmental sector, while hopefully amplifying the climate action efforts that all of you guys are doing on the ground as grassroots organizations all across Canada, and just ensuring that they can survive today and into the future. We have to date with this program secured over 195 internships with the program and supported over 80 different organizations. Just some quick kind of stats in terms of the need of our program. So back in 2022, an Ontario-based survey had revealed that 83% of organizations saw an increase in costs. 74% of them had an increased demand in their services, but 65% of them reported challenges in terms of recruitment and having retention of both staff and volunteers. And this definitely also reflects across all provinces in Canada, not just Ontario. And according to StatsCan, the unemployment rate for youth in Canada is 10.7%, which is significantly higher than the average national at 5.5%. And this also increases even more when we're talking about northern communities and more rural areas. So with our program, so 80% of our youth that have participated, they have been able to secure full-time positions within 3 months of participating in the program. So this just really helps sort of showcase how the program's success will help prepare the youth in getting into that labor market and then being able to support youth all across Canada, coast to coast, from BC up to the Atlantic areas. As a host organization, there is a number of benefits to participating to the program. So you can receive tailored human resource and staffing support based on the needs that you need to help simplify the management of youth staff and volunteers, and just making sure that there's a mutually beneficial and good placement experience on both ends. You'll be able to access resources and templates, personalized coaching that help design sort of improve your internal management of specific systems and effectively gauging the youth. So you'll be able to enhance your organizational capacity, strengthen that ability to be able to do projects and getting some more outcomes that way. And this can look like more field-based work. It could be policy development. It could even be maybe a communication strategies that they put together for your organization. You're also helping develop the youth and the workforce development in the area. So you're providing young professionals with that meaningful experience in the environmental sector, and they're able to also develop their leadership and soft skills at the same time. This creates pathways to more stable and permanent positions down the road, and it provides benefits both for the youth and for your organization. There's also just improved volunteer management and retention in general. We find that when you're able to offer additional training and program support, they're linked with other youth that are part of the program, so they may not feel as alone if you guys are a smaller organization and don't have as many volunteers. So it just helps create that sense of community, and they can stay longer, and over time you'll notice and develop that more of a stronger volunteer base, especially if you're starting kind of from scratch. It helps give increased diversity into your group, so you'll have more youth involved in your organization if you don't already, and you're able to get their voices to the table and hear their perspectives to be able to help build and increase that diversity in your organization, being more inclusive and equitable team all over. And then also just by participating in the program, then as I mentioned, you get different resources. Your organization is not only supporting all these talented youth, but you're also able to invest in your own sustainability and successes. So what sort of this program looks like in general? There is 4 main parts to the program and 2 phases. So phase 1 really focuses on these 4 aspects. There's the nonprofit training piece, there's a mentorship aspect, a community project, and leadership labs. So in the training, the youth have the choice to participate in either a full version or a condensed version of the training. Usually the full version is meant for more of a full-time staff that might be already on your team that's working for like 6 to 12 months as a contract. The condensed version is more meant for the volunteers, part-time youth or employees that may not have as much time to dedicate to the training. And the types of training that we cover is pretty much nonprofit 101 basics. So we go over how to help fundraise for the organization, communications, mental health and self-care, governance of a board, how nonprofit boards work, volunteer engagement. We touch on diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as just working remotely and a couple other career development skills. So they also go through resume building and prep for interviews so that they can hopefully increase their skill set that way to get a paid position later on and be more confident going into interviews. And then all of the youth are also assigned a peer mentor. They will provide direct feedback and support throughout their placement to help make it a more successful and meaningful experience for them. So the mentors are all alumni of our program, and majority of them still work in the nonprofit sector moving forward. So they understand sort of how the program works. They've had experience working in the field, and they're able to then develop their own leadership skills past the training and program themselves by showing and explaining and kind of talking with the youth that are currently going through the program. And they're able to relate to those issues. They don't act as supervisors. They're more for like cheerleaders, coaches, advocates, and give feedback and extra support where needed throughout that placement. In terms of the community climate project, so this is where we want the youth to take a practical project with an organization, with a nonprofit, to implement what they've learned in the training. So this is where we want to match the youth with an environmental organization fairly local within their area, if possible. It could also be remote, fully remote position, where they'll dedicate roughly 20 hours a month for a minimum of 3 months. So you're looking at roughly 60 hours worth of work to help to dedicate towards a project. And the projects can look at a variety of different ways. They can be in person, they can be virtual. As I mentioned, it could be more of a capacity building project where maybe they're helping with policy development, or it could be more on the ground doing field sampling, or running an activity or a camp, anything like that. We're very flexible on what type of project they do. It's really more of just getting that experience and being able to implement what they've learned in the training. And lastly, we also have the Leadership Lab. So this is run by PERC mainly, where they're interactive workshops that are designed to equip the youth with essential leadership skills. So they're about 2 hours each. We do them once a month. They consist of a workshop, and then they also have a networking piece to it. So we usually try to bring in between 3 to 5 different organization representatives where they can learn about different organizations, start building their professional networking so that they can make these connections in the sector moving forward to help secure some employment and build their professional network. Phase 2 of the program is more what we're starting to get into now. So a lot of the volunteer work and a lot of the youth that are participating this year have already started their projects and they're well on their way. And phase 2 is almost more of the employer help. So we help with the wage subsidy grants that are all starting to probably open up within the next month. Some have already started opening up, where you would offer a paid position for a 6 to 8 month period. You are not obligated as an organization to do phase 2 if you don't have the financial capacity to hire someone. So you can just do the phase 1 and stick with the volunteer only, but this is as an option of something you're interested in, you could do. We are not a wage subsidy funder ourselves, but we do help you with finding different wage subsidies that are available that would make the most sense for what you're looking for. And they usually typically cover 75 to 80% of the wages. And we would ask for you to pay the intern a minimum of $20 an hour for 30 hours a week for about a 26-week period, so that they get that 6 months of a paid internship. And you also can increase the hours or increase the pay. That's just the minimum that we ask for. For this phase, usually we recommend that you would want to have $6,000 to $10,000 reserved for cash flow, just because usually you don't get the reimbursements until at least halfway through the internships. So you want to make sure you have the money put aside or in the budget to be able to cover their pay until you get reimbursed. But usually the total net cost is closer to $5,000 if you're looking at that 6-month period. This will vary based on the salary you decide to pay them and the length of the internship that they have. But you also don't have to have them as a volunteer first. So just noting that even though that we're entering phase 2 right now, if you happen to have someone that's already on staff or a youth that's currently volunteering, that's the ages between 18 and 30, then you can send them to our program at any time. It's a self-directed course. They can take the training. They'll get the mentorship aspects of it. They may just have to do that in around this as they're doing their paid position. So you're not necessarily missing out on phase one. You can jump right into phase two with someone that has a paid position or wants that help. And then once you hire them, then start the training process. For this year, we have already matched 50 youth volunteers with 30 different host organizations across Canada. In terms of the Atlantic region, some of the organizations that we have partnered with is Climate Reality Project, specifically the Atlantic Canada Climate Network. We have the Nova Scotia Environmental Network, East Coast Trail Association, as well as Nature Trust New Brunswick, and a couple others in the area. And lastly, it's more of as we are entering this phase two, if you do have youth, you can sign up, you can get involved with us. You can still apply as an organization if you're interested in either youth, volunteer, or paid position. You just go to our website at ecointernships.ca to the Apply Now page, and you'll be able to fill in an interest form to see if you would like to be a participant of this program either this year or thinking of it maybe in next year as well. And then you can also always contact me at info@ecointernships.ca directly if you have any further questions that if we don't get to it all tonight. And thanks, I'll pass it back to Cass.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Hannah. So yeah, now we have a few minutes for questions. No worries if we don't get to all of the questions. I will send a follow-up email after the event with everybody's contact info for themselves and the organizations and any resources and links that were shared. So don't worry. But if anybody does have questions for any of our speakers now, feel free to raise your hand or you can pop the question in the chat and I can ask it for you. We'll give you a few minutes to formulate your questions.
Hi, thank you all for your presentations. I don't have any specific questions for any one of you at the moment, but I have a general question that I've kind of been thinking about. So I started working from home a little while ago, and I've only ever had like field jobs. And I'm wondering how much time are you actually supposed to spend working when you are working from home? Because like if you're in an office, you spend that time like chatting with people, walking around, networking. Like when you're home, are you expected to sit down at your computer and actively be working for 8 hours straight? Or like, what do you guys do? What's the stand on that? Because I'm a little bit confused. Thanks.
Anybody have any insight on that? That's a good.
Yeah, we have a pretty hybrid work environment at the Nature Trust, and I would say I definitely don't, when I work from home, spend 8 hours just sitting down. I know I'm not focusing enough in that kind of like time frame, or like if it's like consistent, like you need to have breaks. So what if, I'll do my laundry, I'll do dishes, like I'll kind of like pop in and out as long as my work's getting done, it is what it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like especially with our training, we always say like with mental health, like you need to take those breaks, get outside, at least at some point in the day, even if it's just to get a little bit of sun. Yeah, definitely like don't just sit straight at your desk the whole time. Get up, walk around, even if it's like just walking in circles if you're inside. And yeah, I find definitely taking some time to step away from the computer every once in a while. I know sometimes you can have virtual chat rooms too, with depending on your teams. So also taking some time to talk with them, if it's a phone call or a video call, if you want to take some time to get off the computer. But yeah, I think long as you're getting like certain deliverables done, that your work's getting done, it's usually pretty like flexible. At least I know in our program it is in terms of taking a break once in a while to be more productive overall.
Thanks, Kaela and Hannah. And Nasha, I know you said you might have to pop off now, so if you did want to go, and there's any questions about the BIPOC Fellowship, I can just share your contact info, if that works.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone so much for Cass for organizing this and for all the other speakers for being part of it. I'm glad we recorded the session so we can share it with more people. And yes, Cass will share my information. Please feel free to reach out and have a lovely evening, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Nasha.
Bye.
Okay, and we do have just a couple of more minutes, so if there's one or two more questions, we can take those.
Hi, everyone. My name is Beam. I really don't have a question. I just want to thank all the presenters for their contribution today and for the resources that has been shared. They've been helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Hannah, I have a question for you. So I might be getting hired again by the organization I'm kind of working for right now in a couple weeks. How soon, if I were to get my organization to apply to the eco internship program, how soon would that be able to like kick in, and would I be able to start with that in theory?
Yeah, so in theory, what we could do is because the course itself is self-directed, you could apply as a youth participant and we could get you started right away. And then you can even start on some of the training materials prior to being fully hired. And then if your organization then decides to want to participate or join in that way, then we could then get them to fill out their paperwork, and then we would just automatically be matching you with that organization if they say okay to that.
Cool. Thanks.
And I do believe the link is still open. I don't think I fully closed it on our website, so you can still apply through our website on the Apply Now page as a youth.
Fabulous. Thanks.
Awesome. Any final questions? If not, we can call it an evening. Thank you so much to all of our guest speakers for coming tonight and to our audience for showing up. It's much appreciated, and I hope you all took something away from this. Like I said, I will follow up with an email with everybody's contact information and any links or resources that were shared. So keep an eye out for that in the next couple of days or early next week at the latest. And yeah, thanks again, everybody, so much. It was great.